Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. The new parking charges at Southampton Airport just to drop someone off at the terminal.
A dash of southern comfort, money and management changes to help travellers on the strike-hit service.
A bravery medal awarded posthumously to a lifeboat captain goes missing from a locked safe at the RNLI HQ in Poole.
And step inside one of the most famous prison cells in the country. But who was the wild resident that lived there? Good evening. The cost of flying is always fluctuating, but now those who are not travelling will be out of pocket when they go to our regional airports in the south.
From today, you'll have to pay to drop a friend or relative off at Southampton Airport. £1 gives you 10 minutes. It nearly quadruples if you want to stay up for 30 minutes. The airport says it will help fund a huge investment package that will benefit passengers. Well, Southampton isn't the first to introduce this kind of charge in the region, but they are the most expensive for half an hour at £3.80. Bournemouth are next. They make motorists pay a minimum of £3 for half an hour. But ironically, the biggest airports in the region, Gatwick and Heathrow, allow free drop-offs. But could that soon change? Here's our transport correspondent, Mike Pearce.
From today, all of the major airports in the region make a charge to pick up from the nearest terminals. At Southampton and Bournemouth, you also pay to drop off. The latest to join the airport charges row is Southampton. Until today, you could stop in the short-term car park for 10 minutes for free. Now it's £1.
And to bring £1 in right now with this Brexit, with all the problems they're getting, they ought to be giving them £1 to come to the airport.
This passenger only popped in to see if her bag was the right size to take on the plane for a future flight and got caught out.
We don't really feel for a matter of minutes you should have to pay.
It's going to be £1 or £3.80 for half an hour.
Yes, that's ridiculous. I mean, the airports are making enough money.
Pick up and drop off, I've not seen having to pay for it before, so I'd imagine people might be a bit annoyed.
Yeah. It's £1. It's nothing to, you know, the general person. I mean, like I said, £3 for Bournemouth Airport is just, you might as well just throw your money in the drain.
If you don't want to pay, you can drop off and collect from the long-term car park at the other end of the airport and catch a bus. You can then stay for 30 minutes for free. Southampton Airport have justified the £1 charge, saying the money will be invested in the airport. Already they say £20 million has been spent over the last few years and another £40 million will be invested between now and 2020. There's also anger. Blue badge holders have to pay £1 for 30 minutes in the short-term car park.
The pound charge I'm not happy about. Obviously, anything to do with charging, especially disabled people, having to come to an airport to go on holiday, whether it's family members bringing them, whether it's the transport, taxis, whatever bringing them.
It's clear many passengers see the charge as unnecessary. Mike Pearce, ITV News, Southampton Airport. Staying with transport, and is there light at the end of the tunnel for the thousands of commuters from our region who use Southern Rail every day?
Well, the government has today stepped in to try and help the beleaguered franchise. £20 million will be pumped into the service to help improve performance and restore passenger confidence.
But with more strikes planned, is it enough? Emma Wilkinson reports.
For more than a year, Southern Rail users have put up with delays, overcrowding and strikes. Today, the Transport Secretary insisted a £20 million pot of money from the Network Rail budget and a new, more joined-up project team will help Southern get to grips with the chaos on its network.
So right now, we have two teams running this railway, one running the trains, one running the track. I want in future one team running both. So when things go wrong, which sadly they will always do sometimes, there's a single team of people working together side by side to make sure those problems are solved.
Govia Thameslink Railway, which runs Southern, is stuck in ongoing rows with all three main rail unions over the role of conductors, plans to close ticket offices and low staff morale. Today, Brighton Pavilion MP Caroline Lucas accused the government of ploughing subsidies into a failing private company, a view echoed by the RMT union.
It really is papering over the cracks. What they are doing here is fundamentally trying to make a system that is broke work, trying to reduce costs by getting rid of the essential safety critical role of the guard and taking away staff from your stations, including staff from your ticket offices.
So how will some of the money be used? Well, £2 million will be spent on rapid response teams to fix faults more quickly. £2.5 million will be used to speed up train maintenance. £800,000 will pay for extra signal supervisors to keep trains moving. And £900,000 will pay for measures to minimise the impact of bridge strikes. Passengers will no doubt be eager to see if there are any noticeable changes in the short term. But with another 48-hour strike by guards set to go ahead next week, many are questioning whether these new measures will really tackle the root of the problem. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News.
A man's been jailed for causing nearly £40,000 worth of damage at Winchester Cathedral. Paul Wilde, who's 34, broke both his ankles after smashing through stained glass windows and jumping 25 feet in May. He stole £10 from a donation box, but his escape route caused £38,000 worth of damage to historic mortuary chests and relics.
Dorset police are investigating the disappearance of a bravery award that was locked in a vault at the RNLI's headquarters in Poole.
The Gold Gallantry Medal was awarded posthumously to a lifeboat captain who died with 7 crewmen during a rescue attempt in 1981.
It's a major embarrassment for the RNLI, as Francesca Carpenter now explains.
Farmers Coast Guard, it's Farmers Coast Guard. This is a penny lifeboat. Penny boat calling Farmers Coast Guard.
The last message from the Solomon Brown, from one of its heroes, William Trevelyan Richards. The lifeboat sank while attempting to rescue the crew of the Union Star on December the 19th, 1981. Both ships were lost in the storm, with a total of 16 dead. He's the only person to be awarded a Gold Gallantry Medal posthumously, but today the RNLI announced it's gone missing.
Am I embarrassed about it on behalf of the RNLI? Quite candidly, yes I am. I mean, my message to the family is that we share your sense of loss, but in a different way. We are doing everything that we can.
It was locked up in a vault at the RNLI headquarters in Poole. The medal was reported missing 2 months ago, but after an extensive search, police have now been contacted and an investigation is underway. Andrew Munson was harbour master at the time of the tragedy. He says the news has brought back memories he'd rather forget.
I knew them all very, very well, and it was very upsetting. And for this to have happened is beyond belief. To have done this, I think, is a completely despicable act.
The medal's been compared to the Victoria Cross and is the RNLI's highest award for bravery. But it's also got huge emotional importance down here, to the families who lost their loved ones and the close-knit community of Newlyn. The RNLI say the medal's irreplaceable and are appealing to anyone with any information to come forward. Francesca Carpenter, ITV News.
Now on to one valuable item that's been found following an appeal here on ITV Meridian. Newlyweds Damien and Karina Cesario from Havant told us last night how their wedding photographer's camera was stolen during their reception at Portsmouth Guildhall. It meant their memories of their special day were gone. Well, after the report went out, we were told their memory cards with the photos inside have been handed in anonymously to a family member.
I just can't describe how happy I feel. We're both really, really excited because now we could just enjoy being married rather than being upset about not having those photos anymore.
Great news. You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up.
Face to face, the victims of crime who've chosen to meet the criminals that targeted them.
And for more on all of our stories, you can head to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter. Older people across the Meridian region are being advised to check if they're eligible for a shingles vaccination. Anyone who's had chickenpox can develop shingles when they're older, and for a few, the painful condition can cause fatal complications.
Nearly 7,500 children are obese when they leave primary school in the south each year, according to new research. Cancer Research UK has released images of large-size school uniforms to highlight the issue.
It's 11 minutes past 6 and the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Alistair Stewart.
Theresa May ups the ante ahead of the junior doctors' strike. She says the British Medical Association is just playing politics with patients. They insist the new contract in England risks an unsafe health service and the government's ignoring their concerns. Another glitch on Alton Towers' Smiler ride leaves customers trapped for half an hour. And turn on, tune in and pay up. However, and wherever you watch the BBC, now you have to have a licence. But can they really check? Find out with Mary Nightingale and me at 6:30.
It's a system which allows the victims of crime to come face to face with the perpetrators. Restorative justice has been shown to reduce the risk of criminals reoffending and help victims come to terms with what happened to them and even move on from it.
But whether it's offered depends on where you live. Now MPs are calling for an end to the postcode lottery. Malcolm Shaw reports from Sussex, which has spearheaded the use of restorative justice.
This is where he came in through the window here. He put a screwdriver in the bottom and jammed it up.
Tracy Clift shows me how a burglar forced his way into her home in Worthing before stealing family jewellery and other irreplaceable and deeply personal belongings.
I felt really upset that I've caused you so much pain to you and your family, so I owe it to you to stop, full stop, no more burglaries.
Years later, after being convicted for other burglaries, the man responsible wrote to Tracy to apologise. She agreed to meet him in Lewes Prison under the system called restorative justice.
He was visibly moved by it all, and I think he was fairly contrite. To be able to look him in the face and say, you know, you took this from me. This was my family's history, and you took it away and we can't ever get it back. And you didn't really care about it at all. It was a really strong feeling, you know, and I'm really pleased I did it.
I had to go out and get some money somehow.
Restorative justice has been proven to substantially reduce the risk of reoffending. Ollie Peterson, once a prolific burglar, went through the process and turned his back on his criminal past.
As a criminal, I think you know there's victims of your crime, but you don't actually know the full extent to what goes on in their head and what happens after the crime and however long it happens for.
Sussex has pioneered the use of restorative justice, but take-up elsewhere is patchy. Now a committee of MPs is calling for it to be made more widely available.
The two things the government could do is to make sure that every victim has the right to restorative justice if it works in their case, if it's their choice. And secondly, that the money that's made available to police and crime commissioners should be linked into a sort of a national template and set of standards.
Research suggests that 4 out of 5 people think that the victims of crime should have the right to meet the offender, but fewer than a third know about the current system of restorative justice. It may not be appropriate for every crime, but for some, meeting face to face offers a positive way forward for both victim and offender. Tracy Clift exchanges Christmas cards with her burglar, who's working hard to stay out of trouble. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News, Worthing.
Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner Katie Bourne welcomes the report and joins us now. The report says all victims should get the right to restorative justice. You agree with that, don't you?
I most certainly do, and under the Victims Code there's an obligation on police forces as well to provide that information to victims of crime.
How does meeting a person that's committed a crime against you help?
Well, the current criminal justice system really focuses on punishment, and for some victims this is sufficient, but for others they're often left feeling frustrated and they've got unanswered questions. So restorative justice fills that gap and gives them a safe and controlled environment in which they can then have further conversations with the offender and tell them how they feel and how that crime impacted upon them and their family.
What are some of the cases you've worked on? Where has it really helped?
Well, certainly with burglary from houses, we've seen a huge improvement for the victims particularly, but also, interestingly enough, for the offenders, because usually if an offender comes in and steals from your home, they never actually meet you. But this gives them the opportunity to put a face to the person they've stolen from, and it has a huge effect, very profound, and often stops them from reoffending.
But this can't be right for every victim, surely?
No, it isn't. Many victims are very satisfied with the punishment process throughout the criminal justice system. But for those victims who are still left frustrated, who still have unanswered questions, this certainly fills the gap and is incredibly powerful for giving victims back the power that they've had taken from them.
And can the offender refuse to meet the victim?
Yes, he or she can. In the first instance, it must always be victim-led, so it has to be something that the victim wants to do. If the victim doesn't want restorative justice, it doesn't happen. But then once the victim comes forwards and says, yes, I'd like to meet the offender or offenders, the offenders, if they're known, are then approached, and you have to get their permission as well, otherwise it won't work.
Katie Bourne, Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
This won't surprise some people, but motorists are being hit with higher insurance premiums, with some older drivers reporting a rise of 26%.
Well, it's an issue that's being explored on the Tonight programme this evening, which investigates how dishonest drivers are pushing up the prices for the rest of us.
So-called cash for crash scams, as well as bogus personal injury claims, are some of the ploys. Here's Lauren Hall now with a preview of what's coming up this evening.
It's a concern for all drivers, the rising cost of motor insurance. The Tonight programme's been investigating to find out why and talks to those paying the price. Drivers like Gary Shipp. He's 18 and has just set up his own building business. He was hoping to buy this van until it came to insuring it.
I thought it might be roughly about the same price as what I'm paying for my car, but it wasn't.
He was quoted £9,000. He's had to give up on the idea of owning a van and use his car instead.
It's someone who's trying to take a dream away from you. That's all it is someone trying to take a dream.
Gary may be a careful driver, but young people are more at risk of having serious accidents, hence why it costs more to insure them. But what about the rest of us? According to the latest figures, our premiums are up on average by 10% this year compared to last year, and it's more than double that for older drivers. It's partly down to the fact we're shopping around. We're more likely to switch insurers, which means we're no longer seeing such good deals for new customers. Another major issue is cash for crash scams. Police are cracking down on those attempting to defraud insurers by fabricating accidents.
If we get evidence that comes in from the insurer or members of the public around insurance fraud, then obviously we will come and speak to you and investigate those matters.
Dishonesty is also a problem when it comes to personal injury claims. 3/4 of them are for whiplash, but not all cases are genuine.
It's something that we see on a daily basis in insurance. People think that insurers don't investigate. We have systems and people trained to spot these types of claims.
The cost to Britain's insurers is of course passed on to us with higher premiums. So it becomes even harder to put the brakes on the spiralling price of motor insurance. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
And you can see more on that issue on the Tonight programme this evening here on ITV at 7:30.
Now, if you're anything like me, then shopping can be stressful at the best of times, especially when it's busy. But for some elderly people or those with a disability, it can be even more difficult.
Well, now one of the major supermarkets is trialling a system called Slow Shop, designed to help customers with extra needs. And if it's successful, it will be rolled out to other stores.
Julie Harrison has been to find out more.
Leslie Howson has agoraphobia and has been diagnosed as being on the autistic spectrum. Before the slow shopping scheme, she didn't have the confidence to go to the supermarket. But this has helped her to get out and about again.
It's a brilliant idea because I think in this day and age, disabilities are more recognised than what they were, say, a few years ago. You know, and I think it's more accepted now. And I just think this is a brilliant, absolutely brilliant scheme. a really good idea.
One of the simplest but most popular aspects of the experience is that chairs are provided at the end of each aisle so that shoppers can take a break. It all began with an idea by Catherine Vero, who experienced difficulty shopping with her mother who had dementia.
And I used to take her shopping, and sometimes she'd get very tired and we'd have to leave the shop, or she'd get very confused at the checkouts. So I just thought there must be a better way of doing this.
The Alzheimer's Society has found that 8 out of 10 of the 850,000 people living with dementia in the UK list shopping as their favourite activity. However, since being diagnosed, 1 in 4 have given it up. This project is helping to encourage people living with the condition to enjoy shopping again.
It would be great if more and more retailers could pick up this initiative, whether it's the small independent outlet through to the larger supermarkets. If they can get behind schemes like this, it can make such a tremendous difference to people's lives.
If the success of the scheme continues, Catherine is hoping to take it to other retailers and to roll it out across the UK. Julie Harrison, ITV News.
Now our next story is about a nurse who's been working on the world's biggest floating hospital.
Jana Hughes is 29 and spent 9 weeks working with Mercy Ships, a charity that aims to reach people who live with little or no healthcare in some of the poorest parts of the world.
Well, Jana has just returned from the island of Madagascar. This is her story.
Mercy Ships is a floating hospital, so it's a hospital on a boat, and it goes around the outskirts of Africa and docks somewhere for 10 months. So when I went, it was docking in Madagascar. The ship has about 5 operating theatres. They have like general theatre that does like hernia repairs, simple operations. It made me feel really satisfied and that I was doing something to help people that would never normally have access to healthcare. It wasn't just a physical treatment, it was also an emotional and spiritual one as well. You'd see these people come in with no confidence at all, neglected from their communities because of the way they look, and they come out being loved by the nurses and the staff. To have volunteers that go out there and help people is just so important, because these people would never have access to healthcare. They would live their lives in pain and struggle every day, and it's not until you go out there that you see the need that there is. You definitely appreciate the NHS a lot more. It makes me really appreciate what we've got, definitely.
Now, the prison cell that housed Reading's most famous inmate is to open to the public for the first time in its history.
Oscar Wilde, the Victorian playwright and poet, spent 2 years at Reading Jail and never recovered from the experience.
Well, now in a rare move, the prison doors have been opened to house an art installation celebrating his life and work.
Ralph Fiennes, Maxine Peake and Ben Whishaw are among those who'll be performing at the venue.
And earlier today, I was given the first guided tour to find out more about the Reading landmark.
Up until 3 years ago, Reading was a working prison. Tens of thousands of people have passed through its gates in its 170-year history.
But perhaps none more famous than prisoner C33.
Oscar Wilde was at the height of his fame when he was jailed here after losing a libel action. It would change his life forever.
As someone who's lived in Reading for most of her life, I can't explain how exciting this is for me, because whenever you mention Reading, everybody says, yes, that's where Oscar Wilde was jailed for 2 years of his life.
That's right. 1895 to 1897, Oscar was prisoner C33 on this wing here.
Michael, I'm desperate to see the cell. Can we take a look inside?
Absolutely. So this is Oscar Wilde's cell.
Oscar Wilde's cell now looks unremarkable, but it was here he conjured up what would become his most famous poem.
Oscar has immortalised Reading through the Ballad of Reading Jail. It's a really powerful story about the destructive power of love. He said that everybody, effectively, if they weren't careful, might end up in the same sort of tragic situation he did.
And that creative energy is now being reflected in a unique art exhibition, with leading artists and actors showcasing their work here over the coming weeks.
It's going to give people an opportunity to see in a building they've probably driven past hundreds of times in Reading and wondered maybe what it looks like inside. Well, you can come in, now you can come in and actually see what it looks like inside.
How has the prison changed? Are we seeing what Oscar Wilde would have seen?
It's changed very little. I mean, the prison chapel and the wings and the ceilings and the vaulted windows are all kind of supposed to remind you of the relationship with God. So it was a sort of an attempt to get you to kind of question your own actions.
Prison life, thankfully, has now changed. But Wilde died a broken man 2 years after his release. What would he have made of his legacy?
I think Oscar Wilde would have been deeply moved by the way that artists and writers today continue to reflect on some of the themes and emotions which he so brilliantly laid bare in his writing from prison in Reading.
The exhibition and prison tours will continue until the end of October. But with the future of the site still in doubt, this could be the last chance to visit before these doors close forever.
Well, you're from Reading, aren't you, and find it fascinating
I'm
going behind those
so glad,
walls.
honestly. It just felt historic, and for me as well. And I just think he is just such a well-known personality. And now I will forever be able to tell the story about when I was in his cell.
Place to go.
Amazing. So much to see, and we'll have more information on our website. Philippa's with us now. Philippa, quiz time, I believe.
It is quiz time. It's the first day of meteorological autumn. It's also the 1st of September, so time for a game of higher or lower.
We love a quiz.
How does that sound?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll start with the temperatures. Set against a beautiful backdrop taken by Martin Dolan. Thanks for that. So the August average, 16.1 Celsius. Higher or lower?
It's been a good month, hasn't it?
Higher.
Higher, you are right, 16.9 this year. The next one, let's take a look at the rain. This lovely picture taken by Andre Whitby Elliott, a windy day on the south coast. The average rainfall for August, 69.2 millimetres. Higher or lower?
Lower.
Definitely lower. I'm going lower.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
We're
We're going to
win
this one. It was lower. 67.1 millimetres for this August. And then the next one, sunshine. Beautiful butterflies here enjoying the sunshine. This one taken by Ian Matthews. Average sunshine for August, 182.1 hours. What do you reckon?
We've had loads of sunshine.
Yeah, higher.
Higher. You are right. 194.9. I am very impressed. You have done well.
Thank you. Let's hope we're impressed now.
Yeah, and let's see how the weather at the start of September is shaping up. Here's Philippa Drew.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, our thanks go to Gary Capstick for this beautiful picture taken at Sandbanks in the last couple of days. Back to the here and now. We've had high pressure across us today, giving settled, dry and fine conditions. But over the next couple of days, that will sink its way southwards. Low pressure will start to move in from the west. And as a result, things are set to turn more unsettled with breezy conditions and some spells of rain coming our way. Back to tonight, though. A generally dry start to the night, some clear spells. But later on, we'll start to see thickening cloud moving in from the west and the first signs of some rain and drizzle there. That will be with us tomorrow morning, so a cloudy start, a damp start for some, and through the afternoon, little in the way of change. Still plenty of cloud on the scene, any outbreaks of rain gradually working their way eastwards, so by the end of the day we may start to see some bright or sunny spells edging into the far west there. Temperatures a couple of degrees down on recent days, highs around 21 degrees. Looking at the high tides for tomorrow, then you can see for Portland around 8:30 in the morning and again around 8:30 in the evening. And then for the next few days, well, it stays unsettled, all of us likely to see some rain over the weekend.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
It's on the turn. Well, in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart and Mary Nightingale.
Andrew Pate has your late news. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Good night.